Welcome everyone to another episode of the Will and Rock Podcast. Talk to me.
So today we're gonna be taking shots. The results for UFC 219 Home versus Cyborg is in. Let's get right to it.
Cool. A week before that, I ended up taking a ton of shots.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Brutal.
So let's see who loses today. So the first fight, we have Carlos Condon versus Neil Magny.
Man,
that was to start off the card. Carlos Condon was three steps slower than Neil Magny. Neil Magny was just reacting to everything much quicker. Very easy, decisive decision. All 3 rounds to Neil Magny. He really controlled that fight, and he took the W. Tremendous performance by Neil Magny, by the way.
Yeah, so this was the reason why I chose Magny for the fight, is because I felt like Condon took too much time off. And he had some ring rust at the end of the day. You know, he's not unfortunately in the prime of his career. And guys, the reason why Willie's doing this, because Willie just took an L,
okay,
which is great for me. That's a little revenge from last time. But yeah, I totally agree, man. Magny came out to fight. Magny grind that fight out. Did a great job of putting pressure on Condit. Because if one thing about Condit is you give that guy enough space, and he'll do a spectacular thing on you, you know.
We had mentioned last week that Carlos Condit, he retired at one point. He retired not so long ago. This is his first fight after that retirement. Once a fighter starts to say that he wants to retire, that's when
he didn't say it. He literally did it.
Right, not only he did it. So just the whole contemplation of it. This is the results that you get, and that's the type of performance you're gonna get from Carlos Condit, I think, going forward. Because he's not in the right state of mind. If you're thinking about retirement, then you're not thinking about winning. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. And then you mentioned he was low. He wasn't the regular Carlos Condit.
He was a few steps behind, for sure. Absolutely. But anyways, I took the L. I lost. So cheers.
Cheers, my brother.
Oh, great.
That's always good.
So bad taking shots.
Next shot.
The next one.
Next fight.
The next one is Cynthia Cavallo versus Carlos Esparza.
I really enjoyed this fight. I didn't know much about Cavallo. Is that how you say her name?
Cavallo.
Yeah. Yeah, she's Brazilian. When I tell you I've never seen this girl fight, but I honestly never saw somebody so comfortable walking into the octagon.
I know, it was one of the things you were talking about. You were the first one to say that, yeah.
I mentioned it because Esparza looked more tense but ready. She almost reminded me a little bit of Ronda Rousey, just like she was like very stiff and ready to roll. But then you saw Cynthia Cavallo, she was just literally like relaxed. Almost like Anderson Silva, the way he's just very comfortable.
Yeah, I agree.
And well, anyways, talk to me about the fight.
The only thing I want to say, Cynthia, coming out of four fights she had won before she gets Carlos Esparza. I just felt like she was way too comfortable for a seasoned vet as Carlos Esparza. Now, mind you, she was a champion at one point. This is a legit fighter. For her to come in a little way too comfortable shows you the experience of Carlos Esparza, but also the young blood that coming up shows him a lot of immaturity, which it needs to do a little more. She needs to mature a little more. With that being said, she kind of raised her hands after the fight, thinking that she really won the fight.
I think as a fighter in the octagon, I'm not necessarily.
No, that's a very good point.
Fighter in the octagon, she probably thought she really took it.
Yeah.
You also don't know what her coaches were telling her as well.
Yeah, and also on top of that, the fight was, for the most part, it wasn't so decisive. I really had Carlos Esparza winning the fight, but even then, I could see how she probably could think she won as a fighter in the octagon, like you're saying.
Yeah, so I think the big points came from Esparza taking her down twice.
Mm-hmm.
And those are huge points. I think, like you mentioned, I think that's what really caused Cavallo to not really know exactly if she won or lost. But Esparza is a grinder, dude. She's such a freaking... She is somebody you enjoy watching. She just brings in the action, bro.
She goes in, comes out, goes in, comes out. She tried to... she was completely active throughout the whole fight. She tried to take Cynthia down, couldn't finish, but great performance on her stand-up game has improved. As you can see, her in and out, she's gotten a little quicker, and she's just getting older. So it's to show you that she's still in her prime, pretty much. So anyways, you and I picked Carlos Esparza, so there's no shots to be taken for that. The next fight, it was Dan Hooker versus Mark Diakese. Now, I've seen highlights of Mark Diakese, just, you know, like elbowing people, freaking kneeing them, a flying knee to the face, KO. I think because I didn't know these fighters very well, Dan Hooker and Dan Diakese, is just that I saw highlights, and that's what I had in back of my head, and I know I know Mark's had a couple of highlight reels already in the UFC, you know. So with that being said, I said, you know what, I got Mark for this one. And you happen to pick Dan Hooker. Tremendous performance by Dan Hooker.
I'll say that I picked out of my ass. It's not like if I was going, I strategized for this fight. I was not aware of either or fighter. So my goal was to go against you. That was really why I picked the other guy.
Right.
But man, he put in a freaking performance, man. A performance that could easily get him some good fights, you know?
Well, think about it. We spoke about it. I mean, they butt in. They ended up fighting the third fight of the UFC because Jimmy Rivera got hurt.
That's right.
I take that back. Not Jimmy. Oh yes, Jimmy Rivera got hurt, and he was supposed to fight Lineker. That would have been a tremendous fight. He got hurt, and on top of that, also we had Dominic Cruz who got injured as well.
Oh, for that card.
It was the same card, so they were not able to perform. So for that reason, Dan Hooker took over with Mark Diakese, and it's great to see these rookies coming up. They displayed a tremendous performance in that octagon. Hooker definitely took the win. You had Hooker, I had Mark, I lose.
Take a shot. So while you taking a shot, and I'm enjoying this. I'm gonna say something. You mentioned about how great it is to be in a spotlight like that, but I think what's more great about it is that it's people who not necessarily are gonna. They're eventually gonna get their shine. But I like when there is like things like this happen, last minute issues with whatever it is, injuries, weight cuts, whatever it is, and then you're able to just say, okay, well, you know what, let's put these guys in there, and all of a sudden you get put in the limelight and you know how to perform.
Yeah.
And they did a phenomenal job. They did an absolute phenomenal job. I love hearing that.
Yeah, so do I. The second fight was Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Edson Barboza.
Oh, I love this fight.
This was such a fun. I mean, for the most part, there was no finishes. Come to think about it, there was actually no finishes in this whole card. Did Dan Hooker?
No, Hooker won. But he was the only one.
Dan Hooker was the only one?
Yeah, he's the only one.
It was a long fight. Everybody fought pretty much every single round. I had predicted that Khabib Nurmagomedov was going to take out Edson Barboza in the second round stoppage, right? Because as good as Barboza, I know it's in his feet, I know how good Khabib's wrestling is and how relentless. He's not going to give him any space for anything. But goddamn was I wrong. It went all 5 rounds. Khabib took the fight. I don't see anybody beating Khabib. I said this before this with Barboza, and I'm saying it now. This guy is he could easily go down as the greatest fighter of all time. Not so much for the explosiveness, is that I just don't see anybody winning, and he wants to continue fighting and fighting, which makes him more interesting.
I would say, man, I knew how dominant he is. But the way he beat Edson Barboza, at one point was trapped with 2 hands while this guy is just going left hand straight to his face while he's on the ground. Edson Barboza had no business being in there with him. And we're talking about a high-class fighter, freaking Speedy Gonzalez when it comes to his kicks. And for him to get dominated to the level he got dominated by somebody who we already knew was dominant. I personally didn't know how dominant. Yeah. It's going to be, I will tell you, the next fight to make for him, it's not even McGregor. It's Tony Ferguson. Yeah. Tony Ferguson should be. Yeah, they both are fighting for that weight class. They fucking trained their asses off. Khabib has a hard time making that weight, and now he trimmed up with Dolce, and he was able to freaking lose a lot of the weight. So it's great to see that. It's great to see this. And I will say, I really, really love the fact that the UFC or Dana had mentioned that he's like, listen, at this point, either he mentioned something about this year, either you fight the times that you set to fight, or you vacate your belt. There is no in between. If we're gonna talk about champions, McGregor is a champion, hands down, but he needs to fight.
Yeah, I agree with you, but he has all the time to wait between these two. They were supposed to fight both Tony Ferguson and Khabib, right? They were supposed to fight. Khabib couldn't make weight. Kevin Lee jumps in. Tony Ferguson dismantled him, as he should, being the number 2 of best fighter in the world in that weight class. And then Khabib comes and proves it with Edson Barboza. Now, Ferguson also beat Barboza and actually stopped him with a neck choke on the floor, on the ground. What does that say? There's no other room. There's no way in hell I see Khabib fighting anybody else but Tony Ferguson, and vice versa. It needs to happen, and depending who wins on that fight, McGregor could then go ahead and take the next one.
The smart thing about that decision is the fact that it gives people more reason to fall in love with the Tony Ferguson or the Khabib, whoever ends up winning that fight. Because right now, they're not going to put up McGregor numbers. They're not going to put up Brock Lesnar or Ronda Rousey numbers, obviously. But they're amazing fighters, and they're great to watch. Right. But they don't have that personality, But to put them together and then really start off doing social media shit, start tweeting shit to each other, whoever it is, because Ferguson has a mouth on him. Khabib doesn't fall far from the tree, right? Yeah. So it would bring chopped up English, but it works. He mentioned, I love this. He said at the press conference, he's like, listen, I could continue going. He goes, I swear to God, he goes, you could put me on to fight Tony Ferguson, and then I'll fight McGregor in the same day. I swear to God, I'll do that. Like, how dope is that? Yeah. It shows that his freaking level of endurance is endless, dude. He is a scary son of a bitch, man. Yeah, he's a dark horse in that weight class, and you can tell he's brain fucking storming that weight class. Yeah,
I wouldn't call him a dark horse.
Well, not no more. But if we're talking about late last year, early last year,
mm-hmm. Right. Okay, I can see that. Anyway, so Khabib just dismantled Edson Barboza all 5 rounds. He went to decision. Congratulations to Edson Barboza for even standing up and trying to win till the end.
Man, he did. He
did.
Tried to grind
yeah,
out
he really did.
possible.
But congratulations to Khabib, because now you have your next step forward to that title, which is McGregor. So Khabib won. We both picked Khabib, so none of us are taking shots for this one. And then the last but not least, we have Chris Cyborg versus Holly Holm. I think I had predicted Chris Cyborg stopping Holly Holm anywhere between the second and third round. I don't remember exactly what I said last time, but
I don't remember exactly what I said either.
But I did see we both have picked Chris Cyborg, so nobody's taking shots to begin with. But also, Chris Cyborg did exactly what I expected her to do. And it's just boxed her ass off. Nobody tried to take anybody down. I don't know, you obviously saw it. There was a little bit of fence work, but besides that, they stood in the middle and they just banged away, But Chris Cyborg just put in fucking whooping on her.
So, one of the things I like about this fight is, because I kept saying, listen, I don't see Cyborg losing this fight. At first, that's the first thing I said. I said, but you never know if you give Holly Holmes enough distance. And we kept talking about this is going to win this fight. Yeah. Yo, Cyborg gave her the fucking distance, bro. Yeah. He gave her distance, but she just, for some reason, could not. I don't know if it was the pressure, because I feel like Holmes was almost, and you guys can rewind and play this because it's like embedded in my brain. She almost went in for punches expecting to get hit.
Yeah, and she did, and she did
every time.
But that counter punch is what made the fight, because the minute Holly Holm would throw a nice little jab, kind of catch her off guard, the counter punch was coming, and Chris Cyborg was just clocking her. I mean, if you look at both of their faces, one was
if you see some of those punches that they were taking, that Holly Holmes was taking in slow motion.
Yeah, it looked like her jaw was breaking every single time.
Websites I mentioned, she was clocked.
So, but what's the good thing that comes out of this?
No, I'll tell you what the good thing that comes out
Oh, it's Amanda Nunes in the picture.
You know why this is a good fight?
I mentioned that before,
Yeah,
and you said you don't think that's gonna happen. I'm telling you, there is no. Who are you gonna put to fight?
This is what I don't like about that. Okay, no, I'll tell you what I love about it and what I hate about it. The reason why I hate it is because what the fuck happens after that fight? What else happens to the women's division?
Well, women's division in general, you have to think about. You have Rosa.
No, I'm not. Listen,
Or Rose, I mean.
No, Rose, yeah, but I'm thinking of like just in general, like.
We're narrowing it down way
we're
too much.
We're narrowing it down. The women's division is already having a hard time finding the right champions for the weight classes. You do that, you're showing it up. Don't get me wrong. So that's what I hate about it, right? That's what I hate about it. I'll tell you what I love about it. You have to make that fight.
You have no choice.
But you really
have
no
choice.
Why you have to make that fight? Because fucking Nunes is calling her out, son.
Yeah.
He's calling her out. He's saying, yo, I'm the one that could bang with you, and not for nothing, but Nunes has heavier hands than Holmes. Holmes is great, and she's an amazing boxer and kickboxer as well. But the reality of it is that she never threw her kick when she needed to, and she doesn't punch harder than Nunes, man.
No. We're talking about one of, if not the heaviest hands in the women's division. We saw what she did. She lit up freaking Ronda Rousey like a Christmas tree. But
yo, shout out to Holly Holmes. So you're talking about people who take punches?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, Holmes definitely could take. That's a very good pick.
Holmes did a thing, man.
Well, hopefully the advertisement on this will be amazing, and they have to host a UFC event as well. If this happens in Brazil, imagine crazy. But think about it, right? Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes in Brazil. I mean, come on. And you host it, and then you put some really good title fights, but make that the main event. That'll be amazing for female.
I love that you said that. You know what Brazil would be great, but you know what would be a little bit more serious, not for nothing, if you put them in Vegas. You put them in MGM Grand. Because every time the UFC goes into Vegas, it's because there's a real fight going on in the main event. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't go to Brazil because they're both Brazilian. I'm not saying that. Because you're going to expect people to watch. But if you want to put the women's on the map, the women's need to headline Vegas. They need to headline the MGM Grand. That's when you know they've made it fully. But I think for the UFC right now, it makes sense to put them in Brazil. I mean, it's simple. They're both two women fighters coming out of Brazil, heavy-handers, amazing technique, amazing accuracy.
Yeah, those accuracy and stamina. Look, Chris Cyborg went all 5 rounds with Holly Holm, and Holly Holm was jumping around, and Chris Cyborg was right in her tail, man.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. No, which speaks volumes for someone like Cyborg, you know. Because it's somebody who we know that she was on steroids. I know you got pissed all the time, but the fact that she's out of it for this amount of time, you just told her she's just pure fighter.
Yeah.
She's a pure beast.
You're completely right.
At this point, remember we were discussing about, in the last podcast about steroids and all that, and you got really frustrated about it. But at this point, I take back what I said because she's proving what the fuck she can do without steroids.
Exactly.
And just pure talent. Just pure
it's
talent.
Pure talent because she was doing this before and after, as you can see now.
Yeah. But then it goes back to someone like Nunes. Remember, Nunes' last fight, she was a little slow, man. Yeah. She was that was a toss-up. She fought Shevchenko, remember?
Yeah.
And it was a toss-up. And they gave
guess what? They went all 5 rounds. They gave the decision to Amanda Nunes, and as she definitely deserved to win that fight. Very similar to Chris Cyborg and Holly Holm.
Yeah.
You're right. Amanda Nunes did not look like the one that beat Ronda Rousey, but she was fighting tougher competition, if you ask me.
And that's another. We're talking about dark horses in a weight class.
That's a dark horse. Shevchenko is a dark. That she will be considered a dark horse. But anyways, we're sticking way too much to this topic.
I love it, man. It's women's.
Chris Cyborg versus Nunes. That should be the next fight that needs to happen. There's not another most anticipating fight in the female women's division, so hopefully that goes down, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So that's the wrap. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, The Will and Rock Podcast, on YouTube, The Will and Rock Podcast. What else, guys? We out.
Peace.